do we just? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jay Grover. I'm one of the people who have organized this debate. So we're going to begin the night off tonight with a blessing from our rabbi.
Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke, share your bread with the hungry, and take the wretched of the poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. Guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace, and may we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country and county be sound in spirit and body. Amen.
Amen.
So now I'll introduce our moderator this evening. Tonight our moderator will be Uriah Kaiser. Uriah Kaiser is an entrepreneurial journalist, worked in television and newspapers, and later found a love for reporting on the web. He launched PotomacLocal.com in 2010 to cover his hometown. It has since expanded and now reach nearly 150,000 readers each month on their digital platform. They focus on local and community news, information, and events. He serves on the national local news nonprofit Lion Publishers Board of Directors, working to help other local independent online news publishers and entrepreneurial journalists across the U.S. and internationally to help them find sustainable business models to ensure the future of local news. He also serves on the volunteer Prince William Board of Directors, a dedicated group of people who help connect hundreds of selfless volunteers to the people who need them most in Prince William County, Virginia.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me as the moderator. Thank you for coming out and spending your Saturday evening with us here. Thank you to our candidates who are running for public office and willingness to serve. So here's how this is going to work tonight. We have got a series of questions, 10 of them, right? They're very well thought out questions. They've been submitted by the community to this forum here. We're going to try to get through all 10 of them, right? And if we can, we'll go to sudden death. We'll do a bonus round. We'll do another question at the end, and we'll tally up the points, and we'll see who wins, right? We won't do that. But what we will do is let you know that we were in that back room over there, and we did draw cards to know who will go first for 2-minute opening statements, and then at the end, we will do 2-minute closing statements. Mr. Bay drew the first card, so he will go first here in a second. We will tell you that the questions, so the first question is sort of a lightning round, the 30-second question response, and the remainder of the question will be 1 minute, 30-second response for each candidate. And Ms. Bitter here will be keeping the time for us. We certainly appreciate her doing that. Okay. Opening statements. We'll start with Mr. Bay.
Good evening, everybody. Starting with, I want to thank the congregation of Shalom, League of Women Voters, for hosting this event. Last time I was here was 2005-2006, when I was the vice president of Darul Noor, Mr. Virginia. The whole engagement of communicating between the two organizations started at that point, and I remember sitting at that corner on a table when we were breaking bread together during the Sabbath. And one of the things that I was allowed to speak that night, one of the things that I said during the prayer when we looked at was, repeatedly I saw in the prayer the word peace, 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 peace. And somehow we have gotten that peace mixed up. We have become pieces instead of going after peace and trying to unite. And that is the state of our nation as well. And that's the state that everywhere when you look around today, we are more in pieces than in peace. When we look at the county, it's no different. It's getting to that point as well. My goal as the chairman, if elected, given the opportunity to serve, is to bring that peace back. When I moved to this county 21 years ago from New York, my wife, who used to live here with her family, the ideal situation was for me to move from New York to here rather than asking her to move from here to New York and away from the family. I have lived literally 2 miles away from here for the last 18 years. Actually, last 21 years. I used to live 2 miles this way, now I'm living 2 miles that way. I have seen this county change, and I have seen this county evolve. I have seen this county become from the dense forest into a concrete jungle slowly. There are a lot of things that have happened, and there are a lot of things that need to change, and I hope that I can bring that change to the county.
And thank you, sir. I should have read this first, so I apologize. But for those of you who do not know Mr. Begg, he, as he said, Prince William County with his family 21 years ago, and had lived here in the same neighborhood for the past 18 years with their 6 children, aging from 19 to almost 2. Muneer and his family have had its fair share of commuting to work and juggling their schedule between childcare, school, social, and religious events. Muneer has served in several leadership roles in Prince William County, including Human Rights Commissioner, Hilton Performing Arts Center Executive Committee Member, Health and Human Services Commission Board Member, 2004 to 2008 Transportation Strategy Planning Board Member, and more. Muneer devoted himself to learning more about the community through programs like Leadership Prince William and graduation from the Sorensen Institute for Political Leadership in 2005 and 2006. Muneer currently serves several organizations and boards, including Prince William County Chamber of Commerce, the American Public Transportation Association Communications, Controls and Security Working Group. He's also a member of the American Public Transportation Association. So, thank you, sir. Ann Wheeler will go next. I'm going to read her bio before she goes, because I should have done that first in our last introduction. Ms. Wheeler is a Democratic candidate and chair of at-large for the Prince William County Board of Supervisors. Ms. Wheeler has served the public and Prince William County actively since she moved here in 2001. She spent the last 14 years as a Novak board member and the last 2 years on the Hilton Performing Arts Center board. She recently completed a 2-year term as president of the Prince William Committee of 100, a nonpartisan civic organization that provides a forum to raise awareness of county issues. She was on the board of Prince William Social Services for 5 years. As chair of that board from 2010 to 2011, Ms. Wheeler mastered the operations of county and its budgeting process. Ms. Wheeler attended the Prince William County Community Leadership Institute in the fall of 2004. She then served on various community and civic boards over the years, including the Stonewall Middle School Advisory Council, the Board of Social Services, the Shelter Lakes Homeowners Association, and so on and so forth. A lot of these have to with them. So, before moving to Prince William County, her husband, John, and their 2 daughters, Ann, spent 15 years working and consulting in the energy industry. She graduated from Tufts University with a degree in medical engineering and earned an MBA from the University of Chicago, specializing in finance. Ms. Wheeler, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay, it's good. The microphones are working tonight. I want to first thank the congregation for having us tonight. It's lovely to be able to speak to a group of people rather than just knocking doors one-on-one. It's just, the energy is lovely. And I loved coming down here. I live north of Haymarket, and we have a large county, but we have a wonderful county, which is one of the things that is part of my platform. I've been around the county for many years and been involved in a lot of things, and I think a lot of there are things in the county that could be done better, which is why I'm running for the chair position. One of those things is a platform of, I believe our schools are underfunded, and I would like to make that more of a budget priority, because I believe if we have strong schools, we have a strong community. I want to work on some of our transit options and some of our congested roads. And last but not least, I want to work with bringing businesses and growing businesses in Prince William County. All that aside, really my message is also about vision, integrity, and inclusivity. They've been on my website and my business card since I started over a year ago. And that's really something that I think the county needs a vision for where it wants to go. We've had development. I don't think development's bad, but we've done it kind of piecemeal, sort of shoved it in where we could get it done. And I think we need a cohesive vision of what kind of county we want to be for the next 20 years. We've grown a lot. I often joke that when I moved here in 2001, I didn't realize 100,000 people were going to follow me, and they did. And it's been wonderful, but I think we can do it better. I want to bring integrity back to the Board of Supervisors. I think that's necessary at this point in time, given some of the things that have happened over the last 15 years. And lastly, inclusivity. We are a wonderful county that's diverse, of many different people, of many different faiths, from many different backgrounds, and I want us to go forward as one county. I think, we could set an example for the rest of the state, if not the country. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Bang and Mr. Gray to pull the microphones up closer to them so that we can hear you, that we can see you, that we can know you. So please, we'll pull your mics closer to you. And now we will introduce Mr. Don Scoggins. Mr. Scoggins, a longtime resident of Prince William County, has a comprehensive professional background in business and government service, with a concentration in residential real estate development and housing policy. Two critical areas in Prince William County, he says. He served a number of roles in the housing and urban development field, including work within local governments in the District of Columbia and Fairfax County, and housing and real estate duties within several federal government agencies. He is the former CEO of Scoggins Properties Incorporated, a brokerage where he managed for 25 years a diverse portfolio of rental properties, and actively engaged in policy work relating to real estate development and sales, affordable housing, municipal finance, and land use. Very civically engaged, Mr. Scoggins is a member of numerous groups who created to examine and educate citizens about local concerns, and they include the Prince William Committee of 100, the Mid-County Civic Association, the Lake Ridge Occoquan Polls Civic Association, the Woodbridge Potomac Communities Civic Association, and the Dale Cities Civic Association. Mr. Scoggins also has a broad and engaging record of community leadership and service with a variety of organizations and nonprofits, include Prince William National Association for Advancement of Colored People. He's also a former committee member of the Prince William County Human Rights Commission. Mr. Scott, 2 minutes.
Okay. You want to mention why education?
I apologize. It's okay. Your education. Scoggins traveled extensively through Europe from terminated service in Vietnam. He graduated from Hampton University with a bachelor's in architecture and a master's in urban and regional planning from the University of Pittsburgh. He and his wife, Ramit, have 2 sons and is a member of the Mount Olive Baptist Church in Woodbridge.
Okay, thank you very much. As I say, my name is Don Scoggins. I've been in the community for many, many years. Reason why I'm running is that I think that in Prince William County, as we've seen in other parts of the Northern Virginia, I look upon myself as a hybrid person. I'm a moderate, and I would like to bring a sense of moderation to our county. We need to do many, many things. One of the, my priority would be economic development. We talk about more money for schools, we talk about transportation. Everything we talk about requires money. And I think that Prince William County is woefully behind when it comes to its economic development plan. That's what I'm going to want to push. And also I think that we can improve our education in terms of the curriculum that we have. Many students are doing well, but then we have some that are not doing well. And I think that in order to have a nice county, a place that people want to live, we need to offer something where people will want to be here, and also those that are here that need services, we help them. it's good to have nice sounding words and everything, but we need to be at a point where we can actually do some of these things. And I think that I will bring an agenda to the table that's not far to the right and not far to the left. It's right in the middle where we want to be, because Prince William County basically is a center right county, and I do not want to chase taxpayers out of the county with high property taxes. The property taxes already are relatively high considering. So that's what I want to do. I want to, that's what my plan is for the, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And finally, on our round of introductions is Mr. John Gray. Mr. Gray and his wife, Doreen, have been residents of Prince William County since 1988, and he is a self-employed CPA in Lake Ridge. They are the proud parents of 4 adult children and 3 grandchildren. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1969 to 1973. He attended Hofstra University, from which he received his bachelor's of business administration. Mr. Gray has been active in our Prince William community since 1991, first by serving on the University Supervisor's Budget Committees for 25 consecutive years, 91 through 2016, and also being an active member for the Regional Chamber of Commerce from 1989 through 2015. He served 25 years on the Chamber's Public Policy Committee, including 2 terms as its chair. He also was the Chamber's treasurer from 1992 to 96 and vice president for economic development between 96 and 98. Lastly, he received the Chamber's Distinguished Member Award in 2008. John also served on the Board of Social Services from 2005 through 2008 and the Community Services Board from 2008 to 2011. He is a former board member of the Woodbridge Little League, the Prince William Education Foundation, Prince William United Way, Prince William Symphony, and the Library Foundation. Graduate Prince William class, leadership Prince William class in 2011. Served on the Woodbridge Homeowners Association for 12 years, from 90, including the last 6 as the president. Mr. Gray currently serves as treasurer for the Fellowship Square Foundation, which provides housing to about 1,000 low-income seniors in the region. He is the last remaining original founding member who is still serving on the board of the Greater Prince William Health Center, which serves about 47,000 citizens who are without or have minimal health insurance. Mr. Gray, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Can everybody hear that? Yes? Okay. I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight. I'd like to thank Congregation Muneer Shalom for having us, and you for moderating this event. Right? As I go campaigning door to door, I hear 3 separate overriding issues that people talk about that we have to address in Prince William County. The first one is public safety. People are very concerned about the public safety, and that relates to the issue of criminal illegal immigrants and the program of 287G, which I'm sure we'll be talking about in here. The second question that I hear most often is taxes. That's been raised. Our real estate taxes are just too high. We have to find a way to reduce that. I do have a plan on how to do that, and that way is economic development. We need to bring more jobs into Prince William County. If we can bring more jobs into if we can attract business to Prince William County with a lower real estate tax rate, those businesses will create jobs, which will create revenues, which will reduce your individual real estate tax rate and give everyone a better quality of life. I believe if we implement those 3 priorities, public safety, lower taxes, and economic development, then I can lead Prince William County into the future with a brighter and more prosperous future for you. Thank you.
All right, now that we've all been properly introduced, I just want to say that the point of this forum, right, is to ask questions of the candidates to let them explain themselves and give you, the voter, a better idea of where they stand on these important issues that we picked out to ask this evening, ask about this evening. If you cannot hear us for any reason, if microphones aren't working, please do not hesitate to let us know, although we're very happy that we have working microphones. But we will move on to the very first question of the evening, and as promised, it is a short response time. This is sort of our lightning round question. It actually, we'll go first to our card drawer, Mr. Scott, who first tonight gets first question. If elected, what are the first 3 things you will do in office? 30 seconds.
First thing I would try to do, at least ask, is have a audit of the county. I think there would be, most of the Board of Supervisors will be relatively new, and we really need to know all the assets that the county has and then some of the deficits that the county has. That's one. Next thing I would like to do is to have a meeting of all the stakeholders and some of the offices that are being administered, I would say the administrators, and get a feeling as to some of their needs and what they need to, what they would like to see us do. All right, that's, okay. I got 2.
All right, next question goes to Mr. Gray. What are the first 3 things you will do?
The three immediate things?
Yep, the first 3 things. You get in office, what are the first 3 things you will do?
First thing I do is I want to meet with the new Board of Supervisors. All right? It's going to be a diverse board, there's no question about it. All right? Meet with them, become friendly with everybody, even though I think we all know most of the other candidates, right? But meet with them so that we can discuss the agenda for the board in the immediate future, how we're going to move forward, all right? The 8 supervisors have to get along, and they should. Most of the issues affecting Prince William County, oops, my apologies.
It's pretty fast.
Ms. Wheeler, 3 things you will do in office. First 3 things. 30 seconds.
So when I first got on the board, my 3 priorities would be first reviewing the revenue sharing agreement for the school system to maybe perhaps allocate more money to the schools before the budget is set in April. Start talking about and beginning to redo the comprehensive plan so we could work on planning. And last but not least, I would make sure that the census that is being taken in April is fully funded because the county isn't currently doing that, and it's really important for long-term money for the county.
Thank you. All right, fine, that's bad. 3 things you will do when you are elected.
The 3 things that I will start with is first is looking at the school board budget and establishing some KPIs and return of investment as to how the money is being spent and what is the return of investment we're getting for our kids. Number 2 I'm going to look at is the transportation, because we have nightmares of transportation traveling within the county or outside the county. I want to address those. The number 3 will be the climate, the environment, because that's something we talk very little about and it has the most impact. Even though it's small, we can make a big difference.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the remainder of the questions will be response time 1 minute and 30 seconds. And again, first question goes to Mr. Scott. Prince William County has 2 voters will have 2 questions on the ballot. These are bond referendum questions. One is a mobility, or as we like to call it, road bond improvements for $355 million. There's also a park improvement bond for outdoor facilities and parks at $41 million. With this, the area surrounding near Shalom includes projects proposed in these referenda: Medieval Road, Prince Parkway Interchange, house and park improvements on the park side of the bond. Do you support one, both, or none? Why? Should this park funding have priority over school funding? What is the purpose of the mobility improvements? Speedy travel, safety, support individual vehicle travel rather than public transportation. A lot of questions in there, but
Right.
Really, do you support these bonds? Yes, no? Why not?
Is that all? Is that kind of answer you want? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
I support the transportation bond because I do think that we woefully ill-served with the current transportation setup that we have in network, especially along Route 28. Is very cumbersome to drive, and I think that we can continue to make improvements along the Route 1 corridor. So I'm in favor of the transportation mobility bond. As far as the Parks and Recreation, I have questions about it, quite frankly, because I'm the kind of person that I think that we need to concentrate on economic development. And I think that if the if we had a bond referendum that had a component that dealt with economic development, I would probably be more in favor of it. That's basically it.
Mr. Gray, we got a $355 million road bond, a $41 million park bond. Do you support one, both, none, and why?
I don't support either bond issue, but let me be clear. I absolutely support building of roads and the improvement of roads. We need to do it. We have a traffic congestion mess. The reason I do not support this particular bond issue is the way it was presented to the taxpayers. We're the ones who are going to pay the $355 million. When it first came out, it was $600 million. There was some reaction to it, and the Board of Supervisors got together in one meeting, narrowed it down to $355 million, basically by taking various of the initial proposed projects and throwing it up against the wall to see what would stick. The figure that stuck was $355 million. The problem with the $355 million is that you as the taxpayer have no idea how it's going to be spent. If you needed an improvement in your house, you know, Florida room or something along those lines, and a contractor came in and said, it's going to cost $50,000, you can write that check payable to me, and that's it. Will you seriously take a hold of that? You want to know what's being built, what he's going to do, what's in maintenance costs. I think it was poorly prepared. Of the $355 million, 85% of it benefits developers. The $70 million at Prince William Parkway and Old Bridge Road for that project there. Devlin Road will just serve to connect two future housing developments. That's not the way to do road planning. That's not a way to spend your $355 million.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Ms. Wheeler, road bond, park bonds. Do you support one, both, or none, and why?
So I support both the road bond and the parks bond. The road bond I support because it has $200 million for Route 28 in it, and my understanding is that that's probably the worst congestion point in the county, and we need that $200 million to leverage state and perhaps federal dollars to fix that. And I would rather start that sooner rather than later, so I support the road bond. I also support looking at some of the other ones. I'm not a big proponent of necessarily spending a lot of our local dollars on roads. I think we've done that at the expense of schools in the past. I would rather make sure and advocate at the state level and even the federal level to making sure that we're getting our tax dollars back from Richmond for our road system. We had $200 million recently taken out of our Northern Virginia road system to go to the metro, and we don't even have a metro here, and we sort of lost $200 million. And so, but I do support the road bond. I also support the parks bond. There's $220 million of that 41 is for trails, and I think that connectivity enhances our community. I will say, you know, I was always taught growing up that it's okay to borrow money for an appreciating asset, and I consider building roads and parks in our community an appreciating asset, and it's an investment in our community. That said, I also love the parks because I think it addresses some of our issues with children and keeping children busy in youth sports. So I support them both.
Thank you very much. All right, Beg, I'm going to speak to the microphone here. By the way, those of you wearing microphones, they are high fashion statements this evening, so we'll ask that you make sure that we pull them up on our lapels so we can all see and hear the microphones. I think we're hearing them pretty well, Ms. Wheeler.
Okay.
We'll have to pull yours up.
I'm still going to lean forward. It's a natural. I'm still leaning forward. It's a natural reaction. I got to speak. It's weird.
Yeah. And then for our stick mics here, we're going to talk right mics so we can all hear you. All right, Ms. Begg, $355 million park bond, $41 million. I'm sorry, $355 million road bond, $41 million park bond. Yay, nay?
I support both the bonds because we need the money. When I look at the road bond, I think we have a lot of traffic congestion problems, as I spoke earlier. We need to fix 28. We need to get it resolved, basically. I hope that, you know, the Army Corps of Engineers and we get all the supports from them, we can move forward with their bypass on that. But at the same time, when we're building that bypass, I want to make it a restricted road so that we don't allow developments on the two sides of that road and create the same nightmare that we're trying to solve today. Because as soon as we open the spaces around the bypass for development, it will create another nightmare. So, and then looking at the other roads within the county, like Devlin Road and other areas, I would like to look at it in a broader picture, that what is the topmost priority for us, which 28 is, and invest there first to start with. Then as per the parks are a great source for us to integrate as a community. This is where we get together, this is where we get to know each other, this is where we get to kind of communicate with each other. Unfortunately, our society, our communities are built such where there is, houses are spread across, we don't get to talk to each other, we don't even know our neighbors. And I have traveled the world. I look at the Europe, you can go to any neighborhood, there's a park. So for our kids to be able to come out and be able to talk to each other, engage with each other, and while the kids are playing, parents are sitting on the benches and talking to each other, we can build the strength in our community and get to know each other and break the walls that we have created around us.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to do a follow-up question because I want to get you all on the record for this. It's a transportation follow-up, and we'll go in reverse order where we just went through. 30 seconds on this one, okay? With the Route 28, it's been dubbed Northern Virginia's most congested roadway, right? And we are looking at two options. One is widening Route 28 between, it's right in the city. It's, well, it's. I know there's a Burger King right there.
Yeah.
You would look at me, you would know that there's a Burger King right there, right? No, there is. It's
between
Liberia.
Liberia.
Between Liberia and the Fairfax County line.
Yeah.
Right? And widening it within that existing footprint. There's a lot of right-of-way that would need to be purchased for that. It's very expensive. There's also, the second option is extending Godwin Drive about the area of Nevada VA, Prince William Medical Center, over to the Fairfax County line, creating a bypass. And there's some talk about, well, that would simply create another opportunity for people who live in western Bristow, Nokesville, Fauquier County to, instead of going to 66, flow through that newly created bypass, creating another option for commuters and really creating more congestion and not bailing out the existing congestion. So you'll be creating more congestion on both roads. So do you support a particular alignment of fixing Route 28, or are you agnostic? You just want it fixed?
I support the second one, which is a bypass, because trying to fix the current one, buying all the rights on the road, it's almost impossible. There's not that much money, even in the referendum right now, there's not enough money to do that. But at the same time, as I said earlier, I want to create a restrictive road that's basically the bypass that flows through, and so that we can get the traffic moving on it, no kind of better speed limits, and get the traffic from point A to point B faster. That will be great condition.
Ms. Wheeler.
I would say, the bypass has been on the books for a long time. We own the right-of-ways and things like that, and it's always been sort of made the most sense. I support that. That said, I think that something needs to be done along the other section of 28, whether it's undergrounding the overhead lines. It needs to be fixed just in terms of revitalizing it, and so I hate to just put it off to the side and not revitalize it.
So something similar to what they did in Woodbridge.
Yes, exactly. But I like the bypass.
Mr. Gray.
You've addressed the exact reasons why I'm opposed to the bond. We don't know which is the best way to go. So we don't know if the 200 million is sufficient to pay for either the bypass or fixing 28, right? Because they haven't studied that. They haven't done a traffic impact analysis for at least the last 7 years. We have to see that, right? Then the other reason is there's another alternative inside there that's working. That's reversible lanes. It works in Arlington. It works in DC. We haven't looked at that. That would only cost about $21 million. That's exactly my point. We have to find out what's the best way before we waste $200 million.
I'm in favor of the first option, fixing Route 28. I think that if you just deal with Godwin bypass, you would still have those points before you get to Godwin, and also after that going into Fairfax County. I go through there quite a bit, and you will leave a bottleneck, and that's what the bond referendum is to correct that. So
you say spend the money, widen the existing footprint.
Do that, correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Moving on. Minute 30 on the response time. Question. Some residents of Prince William may experience or have experienced discrimination or bias of different types: racial, religious, cultural, gender, human rights, minority status, color, language. How do you, as an elected official, show respect for these many differences? Mr. Scott.
As an individual, how you show that?
It's supposed to rotate.
You want to?
We're supposed to rotate the beginning so he doesn't get the first question the whole time. I'm sorry, I'm interested, I'm just saying, it's not very fair.
Yeah,
Just so you
it's
know.
not fair
Yeah,
to me, yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to rotate.
Yeah, so I can hear what someone else's answer is and go along with it, so
Sorry.
it's not fair. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, none of my business.
All right, then we'll go with Mr. Bank.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Some residents of Prince
Sorry.
William may experience or have experienced
Didn't think that was
discrimination
fair.
or bias to different
Just trying to
types,
take care of you.
racial, religious, cultural, gender, human rights, minority status, color, language. How will you, as an elected official, show respect for these many differences?
Were you talking about me? Because as a Muslim, I have seen a lot of it personally, and I see it today on my Facebook page on a daily basis. I have people who call me the capital T. I have people who call me everything, but my approach to it has been really different. If somebody comes and questions me for who I am, my thing is, thank you very much, appreciate it. It's an opportunity for us to engage. I believe what I was saying earlier, our walls that we have created among us, we need to break those walls. We need to communicate with each other. We have a very diverse population in this community, and that's a blessing, to be honest with you. We need to learn that just because we are different does not mean we need to be divided. Difference is a strength if leveraged properly. Having the understanding what different faiths we have here, what different cultures we have here, and creating an awareness program in the community where we can engage the community as a whole. And that park bond, that's one of the solutions that can help us actually bring people out of those neighborhoods to kind of integrate with each other in communities and help know each other. Just because somebody has a brown skin, somebody has a white skin, somebody has some other color skin, does not mean they bleed green, purple, and orange. They all bleed red. So we need to make sure that we understand that and leverage that strength in diversity and help our kids, which is the most critical piece, the next generation, understand that through our education system. Because there might be a lost hope in some of us, but there is hope in that future.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gray, you need your question again?
Please.
Some residents of Prince William may experience or have experienced discrimination or bias of different types, racial, religious, cultural, gender, human rights, minority status, color, language. How will you, as an elected official, show respect for these many differences?
First of all, we have to respect everybody for their own individuality. I think it's our individuality which is our strength. Okay, so number one, we have to do that. We shouldn't disregard somebody simply because we disagree with what they stand for. That's their God-given right. That's their constitutional right. We have to acknowledge that. Now, I've seen that especially in the community health center, which is one reason why I've served on it for so long. That the community health center serves people with no or very low quality health insurance. Right? Statistically, about 67% of those are Hispanics. Right? And I've seen that there. I've had people say that. How can you do that? They're entitled to health insurance. Doesn't matter. And the health center serves everybody. We have people with health insurance, with regular health insurance. Right? People with no health insurance. We have vets, Medicare, Medicaid. All these people come in. Their need and their goal is they need medical insurance. People need medical care. It doesn't matter what their background is. I wouldn't be there for 16 years if that isn't what it stands for.
Okay. Ms. Wheeler, I'm sorry, Mr. Scoggins on this one.
Very simple. The way I treat people now, that's how I will do it. I'm gonna treat everyone with respect. I don't need to give a long answer about it, because if you're a right type person, or if you're a decent person, you don't need to treat anyone any differently than you would being on the board of supervisors. You shouldn't have to act any differently than you do when you're not on the board of supervisors, if you're an honest and open person. So that's the way I always treat people with respect, and that's the way I will continue to treat people with respect, whether I'm on the board of supervisors or not. That's my answer.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler.
You know, I would get to talking about leadership and tone. I tend to believe that whether it's an organization or a business or a county or a country, the person who's leading it sets the tone. You know, I think we've seen that on a national level, and I think we've also seen that over the years at a county level, and that's one of the things I want to change. I tend to be pretty even-keeled, pretty middle of the road, no drama, and I'd like to bring an inclusive, welcoming tone to our diverse county, because we do actually live in one of the most diverse counties, not only in the state, but in the country. And so how do we celebrate that? And I think embracing that diversity and embracing all the different people and celebrating it helps get rid of some of the discrimination, because it brings everyone together. And just having a welcoming tone in terms of different groups. And if there are different groups that are discriminated against on a constant basis, understanding what protections we can put in place for those different groups of people that might help with that discrimination. Whether it's working on diversifying a department that's in the county or something else, I'd like to work on protections for those groups.
Okay, thank you. All right, next question is about the revenue sharing agreement between the Board of County Supervisors and the school board. I'll point out from reporting experience that Prince William County and Albemarle counties are the only two in the Commonwealth that have this agreement, where in this county, 57%, a little more than 57% of the county's budget goes directly to the school system, no questions asked. So the question that I'm going to ask is, what is your position on continuing the revenue sharing agreement for funding the schools? If revenue sharing was discontinued, how could funding be managed to have a certainty of funding each year? The school funding amount depends on county revenue that comes from taxes, personal property, and real estate. What could be another source to avoid higher personal property taxes, or should there just be an expansion of the tax base, for example, more commercial development? Ms. Wheeler, 1 minute, 30 seconds.
So I used to think that the revenue sharing agreement was good because we didn't fight over giving the money to the schools. It saved everybody time, and they would go, no one had to sit and fight about how much was going to the schools. I realize now that I believe the revenue sharing agreement actually shortchanges the schools. The county has made changes over the years that skirts the general fund, so the schools actually get a lower percentage of the general fund, right? And because they're running things through the fire levy. And so I think the schools are being shortchanged, and I would like to look at giving the schools a greater percentage of the general fund. How would we, where does that money come from? Well, a budget is about priorities. We have a $1.3 billion, actually, if you add all the other revenues coming in, over $2 billion budget. I believe there is room to give the schools more money. I believe we have an elected school board, though, to be clear, and we don't need to look over their shoulder. We need to trust that their elected school board, they're going to spend the money wisely. If they don't do that, they're welcome to be, unelected. And so just in terms of that, I would definitely want to relook at that. And I will say, the schools get 42% of their money from the county. They get 42% of their money from the state, and I would advocate for more money from the state for the school system, as well as actually they get 15% from the federal government. So I think we can advocate for more money for those sources for our school system.
Okay. Next is Mr. Scoggins. You need the question?
You want to read it just one more?
Absolutely. What is your position on continuing the revenue sharing agreement? If the sharing agreement was discontinued, how could funding be managed to have a certainty of funding for each year? The school funding amount depends on county revenue that comes from taxes, personal property, and real estate. What could be another source to avoid higher personal property taxes? Or should there just be an expansion of the tax base, like more commercial development?
Okay, I support a revenue sharing agreement, but not necessarily the current one, because I think that we need a revenue sharing agreement that will ensure or will encourage accountability from the schools. So instead of it just being strictly just automatic, I think we need to look at it and make sure that whatever is being spent wisely, because the taxpayers look at the Board of Supervisors. We're the tax raising authority, so we should have the ultimate decision as to how much money the school system gets. But I will say this, I do think that the schools should get more money, and I would advocate, that's one reason why one of my main concerns and main platforms is to boost, we need to have a more robust economic development, because if we have a more robust economic development, less burden will be placed on the residences for the taxes that they pay that will go to the schools. And perhaps the school revenue sharing agreement could be could be more defined. But at this point, right now, I think that the revenue sharing agreement needs to be looked at perhaps maybe not every year, but maybe every 2 years, so that they can have some degree of stability to know exactly what's, how much money they will get. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bay.
I will support the current revenue sharing agreement, but with some changes. The question you said there is no questions asked. I want to ask the question.
Yeah.
Because the county residents don't ask the school board the question when the taxes are raised. They ask the board of supervisors the question, why are my taxes going up? And what are you doing with the money? So the liability lies with the board of supervisors, that why my taxes are going up and what are you doing with the money? So I want to make sure that I share the responsibility with the school board, that hey, when we are investing in the school board, what is happening with that money? We have seen that we spend money on some of the things like fancy stuff that goes into the school system that doesn't need to go, where the teachers' pays are not increased. We need to educate our system in a way that where the educators within that system are highly paid, at least equal to the other counties surrounding us, and where they don't have to find a second job to pay for their day-to-day life. I want to make sure that that happens, and at the same time, I want to also make sure that we are working with the state and the federal government to get our fair share of the funding for the school programs that are, and also I want to invest in the technology sector within the small business sector and other large business, that tech corridor we have, the data centers coming in and stuff like that. Leverage some of the tax base to help the school system sustain their budget.
So, but let me follow up on that, because you say you support the revenue sharing as is, but you also want to ask questions. But as you know, the agreement, I mean, it's an easy,
That was not a loud question.
I got cut off on that. So are you more for categorical funding, or are you from?
Can you repeat it, because it echoes?
So as you know, the revenue sharing agreement is a way for the county board just to issue 57% of the budget and give it to the schools and say do what you will, right? And historically, the board has not questioned what the school board has done with that. Now, they have given additional money above and beyond the 57% for certain things. But you say you want to question what goes over with that 57%. So are you for more categorical funding?
I am more for the KPIs and ROIs, basically establishing the key performance indicators. What are we planning to do? What are we doing? I want to be a lot more vigilant. Just like the county residents ask me, what are you doing with my money? Every single penny that is collected in the taxes, the questions are asked, what are you doing with it? Why are you collecting so much money? Similarly, I want to pass this question back to the school board as well. What are you doing with the money? How are we spending the money? So that we can both be accountable to the citizens who are paying that money into the treasury.
So yes or no question for everybody in the board. I'll go down the road here. Would you be in favor of having the board coming, having the chairman of the school board coming to your board and giving a full report and accounting where that money went for the year? Yes or no?
Yes.
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 Well, point of order, I didn't get to answer the question.
Okay. Good point of order. So let's answer the question. And you want me to repeat the question?
No,
Okay.
I've heard it. Okay. As it stands now, I do not support the revenue sharing agreement only because it's outlived its usefulness. It's correct. It was first established, I believe, in 91, 92, the early 90s. The main purpose it was established was to stop the arguing between the boards. Well, over the years, as it's come to school board, the way they develop their budget is they know they're getting 57% of your tax dollars. So they start at the top and spend down. So they know they're going to get that. And, it's not a figure thrown against the wall. The county looks at the revenues and expenses on a monthly basis. The school board can project out what they're going to get, but they do it from the top to the bottom, right? That shouldn't be the way they do it. And the result of that is that the Board of Supervisors has effectively abdicated its oversight responsibilities. School board, the Board of Supervisors should not micromanage the school. We have an elected school board. That's their job. But they effectively abdicated their responsibility. They're getting 57% of your money. When you look at your tax dollars at federal and state level, you're adding the 7.5% Social Security you pay, and then all the local and state property, all the nuisance taxes that you can't deduct on your return. Right? We don't know what they're spending it on. That's one of our problems as individuals. It's the same thing at the school board. So I would not support the revenue sharing agreement simply because we, as Board of Supervisors, it's our responsibility to report back to the taxpayers that their taxes are being used efficiently.
Okay, thank you all for that. good discussion there, and Mr. Gray, we'll stay with you on this next question. And it has to do with economic development, something that you all have been talking about. We've seen with this an explosion of data centers in Prince William County. And so the question is, what industries, businesses, and commercial entities would be best for Prince William's economy? And then the other half of the question I would like, what is missing here and what might not be welcome in Prince William County? Mr. Gray.
What might not be welcome?
Right. So what do you like, what do you don't like for economic development in Prince William County?
I can't think of offhand a business that we wouldn't want, except if it's not either, unless it's illegal or immoral, first of all.
Define illegal and immoral.
Selling drugs.
Right.
Okay, we should not legalize that, and we wouldn't at the local level, but you asked that question. That's not something we should do, all right? The data centers are very economically efficient for Prince William County. The problem there is the division between the real estate, we have one rate. Real estate, commercial and residential pays one rate. The trouble there is that, well, it's not the trouble is that the commercial rate is very low. It's really only about 15%, and 85% is paid by the real estate, by residential real estate, which means that you pay it. The good thing about the commercial rate is that commercial property does not use all the essential services. They don't use schools, they don't use libraries. Basically, they don't use much of fire and rescue, right? So they're very tax efficient for us. The data centers are very tax efficient. They're very low labor, all right? But they're very tax efficient because they pay they pay more than their fair share of real estate taxes. So that's something we want to do is encourage, I think at this point, encourage the data centers because of the tax efficiency.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Mr. Bay, what kind of industries, businesses do we like for Prince William County in economic development? What kinds do we maybe not like?
I'm a small business owner in Prince William County. I run a cybersecurity business in Manassas. Being part of the George Mason University's Science and Technology Advisory Board, I see a potential for tech industry here. We have Innovation Park that was dedicated years ago, but we have not done much in it. We have a significant amount of retail, which does not pay high wages. We need to invest in the future jobs, which is technology, cybersecurity, and create small businesses and enable innovation right here in Prince William County. We can create the next Google, next Microsoft from here. It's not a big deal. All those companies started as small businesses with somebody's dream. We can have that dream right here in Prince William County. We can also create, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates from this county. So investing in those tech sectors which are high-paying jobs, which allow also people within the community to work right here, and also looking at diversifying in other areas. Like, technology, we're looking at data centers. They take the space, they do not create a lot of employment, but they create a lot of good tax base for us. So investing in a lot more data centers and creating that tax base, that can actually help us offset some of the property taxes we're charging homeowners on a daily basis.
Okay. Ms. Wheeler.
So when I moved here, there was it said there was the tax base for residential was 73%, and it was supposed to be going lower, and now it's at 83%. And so it's only been going in the wrong direction for residential. I support welcoming the data centers because they are a good tax revenue source, and they don't use a lot of services, especially schools, roads, and fire and safety. I'd love to look at businesses that are auxiliary businesses to data centers, maybe people who service data centers. There are 46 data centers already in Prince William County. There are 100 in Loudoun. There have got to be auxiliary businesses that service them in terms of cleaning and moving equipment in and out. So I'd like to look at that. I'd like to look at a small business incubator to see if we can grow our own businesses. A great example of that that's happened in this county is FH Fur, the plumbing contractor. It was very small, now it's huge. And I would like to see more of that happening. I'd love to look at economic development for agritourism. Loudoun has a huge agritourism sector, and we've never really tried to develop that in Prince William County. And last but not least, there's a talk of a medical school coming to the Western George Mason campus. I think that's a game changer for Western Prince William County, and actually the county as a whole. There were so many things that would come out of that. I've already started talking to people about trying to make that happen, because I think it's so important for the future.
Okay, your question was what we would not like to see here. I would not like to see.
What do you like, what do you don't like?
Yeah, right. I would not like to see casinos. That's number one. Okay. What I would like to see is that I envision the doing more for the eastern part of the county, because the eastern part of the county needs more attention. I envision along the 95 corridor where you come off of Rondell Boulevard and where the PRTC lot is. This is kind of a dream, but I've said that PRTC is occupying land that's probably not producing any tax revenue to the county, and that's very valuable land. I can see that being a entertainment complex where you have hotel, maybe a top-notch hotel, convention, conference center there, because I'm involved with many organizations, and when they have events, they have to go up to Tyson's or maybe Crystal City. They go out of the county and have their major events. I would like to make Prince William County a place where people come to have their major conferences and individual things like that. In addition to the data centers, of course, the data centers are great, but with the idea that I have that could be financed through we can do a public-private partnership in terms of development of it, and could be paid through tax increment financing, which is what some of the other jurisdictions do when they have to take on something that's very expensive. So I think we should look at how we can enhance the eastern part of the county, which has the transportation network, and I think that was something to look at.
Follow-up question on economic development and current board policy, that moonshot goal of 64% commercial tax-based revenue for Prince William County within the near future. I forget the exact number of years, but within the near future, right? When we all know that Prince William is heavily reliant on its residents, right, for funding. So, if you get on the board, do you continue that moonshot goal, or do you go back to the drawing board on that, start with Mr. Gregg?
I think the moonshot goal is achievable, but the answer to that is we have to reduce the real estate tax rate in order to attract businesses here. Again, if we reduce the real estate tax rate, we're going to attract businesses here. We are not competitive with our surrounding counties. That's why we're not attracting business. We need to get the real estate tax rate down at least equal to the other counties. That will attract businesses, which will create jobs, which will pay revenues, which will reduce your individual tax burdens, increase your quality of life, and bring the jobs to Prince William County.
Thank you, Mr. Bay.
I will continue that goal of kind of increasing the commercial taxes, because at the end of the day, helping some of the residents to reduce the tax burden on them, because some of us might afford that tax burden, but tax as it goes up every year, there are people in this county that cannot afford that even extra $100 on an annual basis when it goes up. So I want to make sure that we can create a tax base that actually helps reduce that burden on the individuals and creates a separate alternate source of income.
And Ms. Wheeler.
When I get elected, if I'm chair, I plan to go out and actively market the county. I think the moonshot goal is possible. I think it's the only thing that will really help Prince William County. We desperately need commercial business here. And I think the board as a group can go out and sell the county and attract people here. We have a brand new economic development person in the county, very exciting. She came from Arlington. I think there's hope for us yet.
I really think that we need an economic development authority whereby the local jurisdiction, we can go and we can engage in some public-private partnerships, because we cannot, I'm in favor of the goal of increasing the commercial contributions, but we have to be more aggressive and proactive about it, because if we wait for it to happen on its own, I don't think it's going to happen in the near future. If we want it to happen in the near future, we have to let everyone know that we're open for business and market the county.
So you know all four of you support going to the middle. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Next question, minute 30 response time, and it goes to Mr. Bay. In Virginia, a crime is considered a hate crime only if the investigation revealed sufficient information to lead to a reasonable and prudent person to conclude that the offender's actions were motivated in whole or part by bias against race, religion, disability, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. 2016, the number of hate crimes committed in Virginia was 137. 2017, that number rose sharply to 202. 2018, there were 161 hate crimes, with the largest category being racially motivated, mostly against African Americans, and the second largest category being religiously motivated, being most anti-Semitic. If elected, how will you address these crimes reported in Prince William County?
Leadership in any environment is critical for the well-being of the community. If you have a tone of the leadership that we see nationally today that is motivating these crimes, we might not be able to change the tone at the national level, but we can definitely change the tone within our county here. People, the simple example I will use is people when they go outside of their houses, there's a lot of disturbance outside in the house. But when you come back as a family, you work as a family together. While you might not agree with everything that happens in the family, but you help hold that family very tightly together and make sure that it stays together. Education and awareness within that piece is very critical as well, because a lot of the things we see in the community that hate crime is driven by the lack of understanding. I see that right now within my own campaign. I have people that when they call me terrorist and all that stuff, because there is a lack of understanding of who I really am, because we tend to have a wide, broad brush that we paint everybody with. We need to get into those areas of the community where these problems exist today and help those people educate and understand what really these different sects or groups mean. There is nothing different between a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian, a Hindu, a Sikh, or any other faith. There is no difference among us other than we might call God by different names.
Okay. Next response from Ms. Wheeler.
I would say I have probably zero tolerance for hate crimes. I think it's something that occurs that we need to address and not have any tolerance for. You know, that sort of gets back to setting a tone. But I would also say it is education. It's education of the population. It's having people understand that often hate crime comes out of ignorance. You know, and so if we have a community where we're not all in our own little silos, you know, I think there would be less ignorance, especially like in the school system. But I would have zero tolerance for hate crimes and make sure that they were prosecuted.
Mr. Scott.
I have no tolerance for hate crimes also, and I think that what we need to do is do more education. I've noticed that since I've been involved in many community events, sometimes I'm the only person of color there. And I think that the best thing we can do is to maybe take some of these events to the community and engage some of the other communities about what we're all about, and also think that the churches need to, there's an organization called Voice. I'm wondering if everyone in here is familiar with Voice. We need more organizations like that encourage more interfaith collaboration with each other, so we can learn people and learn different cultures. So I think we do need to do more education than anything else, because it's all about education.
Mr. Gray.
I would agree, it would be on education, okay? People have to be more tolerant. All too often, like, people see their point of view and they think that that's the only thing, but hate crime is really, that's vicious. There's no question about it. So I think it's really a matter of educating people on that. I know that sounds like an easy answer or a soft answer, but you have to educate people to be more tolerant, quite frankly. You know, our diversity has to be addressed, and we do that through education, through not only schools, but I agree through churches. Almost how to get people to churches, church attendance, religious attendance. I hope it's in church, my apologies. Religious attendance is down significantly. And you see diversity in the churches too, right? So I think that might be the best way to do that.
Thank you all for that. Okay, our next question. We'll go to Mr. Scoggins first. Our school system has nearly 200 trailers. I know this because in the late 90s I attended math and English right across the street in some of those trailers. 200 trailers for classrooms because of overcrowding. Joint Committee of Supervisors and School Board members has been working for a year and a half to devise a plan to rid the school division of these 200 trailers. A $174 million plan has been proposed to add 2 elementary schools and a middle school, middle school additions to help solve this problem. The talks, however, are at an impasse. If elected, how would you proceed to overcome this impasse? Would you prioritize new school construction or refurbishing of old buildings? And if so, should the county allocate additional funds to the school division to pay for your solution?
That's a good question, huh? What I would recommend, number one, is look at how we build schools. I'm of the opinion that by the time a school is open, by the time you cut the ribbon to go into the school, it's already overcrowded. I think that the school system needs to do a better job at evaluating or anticipating or estimating what they really need, so that when the schools are when you're on the drawing board, they can be planned properly. And some of the older schools, I do think that when we are talking about land, land is very precious in Prince William County, particularly considering we want to preserve the rural crescent. I think that what we need to do is look at some of the current locations of schools, some of the older schools, and maybe do a massive renovation of some of the older schools and make them, expand them so that they can take some of the pressure off of these trailers. I do not think students should be in trailers, but I'm in favor of retrofitting some of our current schools that are already here in certain locations and to deal with it.
Okay. Mr. Gray, would you prioritize new school construction or refurbishing of old buildings? And if so, should the county allocate additional funds to the school division to pay for it all?
Well, it's a combination of all that, but the important question is, how are you going to pay for it? How many here would be surprised to know that the county has a $1.5 billion investment portfolio? Most people are surprised at that. I'm not upset about that. That's just what's called our cumulative surpluses. What I'm not in favor of is how it's invested. They loan it to all other jurisdictions throughout the United States. They loan it to corporations in the form of security deposits, things along those lines. I addressed the Board of Supervisors about this back in April. What I'm suggesting, in order to fund this $174 million problem, trailers are not safe. I'm not going to go through all the reasons. We all recognize the trailers are unsafe. How do we get rid of them? What I'm saying, instead of loaning $30 million to some corporation or to another county, it's our money. Loan it to ourselves. We can find what the rate of return is. All right? That's how I think we solve it. We don't raise real estate taxes. We're not allocating everything. We're just allocating those tax dollars to ourselves. It's our money. Let's use it. Let's solve that problem by funding it $174 million out of $1.5 billion. We can solve this problem. It's an out-of-the-box solution. It's entirely legal. All right? And that would be one of my priorities in solving the trailer issue.
Mr. Bay.
The key to the school problem is not just the schools itself. We need to look at the development of the county to start with. We have to look at when we are developing the county, we put the houses up first, and then we look for the school later. By the time we're too late, and the result is the trailers. So when we are developing any area, we need to look at what we are developing there, and how many kids are we going to produce from the development, how is the school system sufficient enough there. What's happening currently in the school system, the trailers, they definitely need to go because they are not safe. There is also basically refurbishing the school system. There's a plan actually, I'm working with the Climate Action Network, I'm part of the group, to push the school system to implement solar, whereby we can basically generate our own energy, clean energy, and actually reduce the cost of operations within the school system. There is a lot of ways that we can raise that money. It doesn't have to come from the tax dollars, everything. If we do these small things here and there, we can reduce the amount of current operating costs. That's one of the things that I want to drive as a chairman, as performer, across the county, whether it's within the school system or the county, that let's target a 10 to 15% higher performance on everything that we are doing and achieve the goals rather than kind of just keep on doing the same thing and expect different results.
Ms. Wheeler?
I support giving money to refurbish the schools and building new ones. That said, I think that there's an equity in the school system between the East End and the West End, and so we really have to prioritize some of the expansion on the East End. That's where a great many of the trailers exist, and I think that's because the development's gone in piecemeal, and while we build new big developments on the West End, we know that we need the schools. On the East End, we just filled in, and the schools weren't built. And so I'd like to prioritize getting the trailers away from some of the East End schools. That said, I mean, I was in a trailer when I was in high school. You know, I mean, a couple of trailers for older children isn't bad. There's some safety issues with small children going back and forth. It's really, especially with the elementary schools, I think the trailers are much more dangerous because the kids are unescorted going back and forth. But you know, the board was almost at the point where they were going to say, yeah, $174 million, and then one supervisor raised their hand and said, well, are these numbers any good? And everything just stopped. You know, and they were like, no, we have to study these numbers more, and you know, that's sort of the thing that happens these days. And I was sad to see that because they almost had agreement going forward on spending the monies to fix the schools. You know, projections aren't perfect, but I don't think we should necessarily question everything the school system does. I think we need to have some trust.
Very interesting responses from all you. I would tell you that our neighbors in Stafford County are also watching trailers. Right now, their schools have 0, and there is a school of thought there that once you put in 1, then you get 200, right? And so they are watching Prince William County closely on that. So thank you for your responses on that. The next question is about concealed carry permits, and it goes to Ms. Wheeler. A minute 30 is your response time. The question. The fee for a concealed carry permit in Prince William is $15 as a result of a 2016 board decision to reduce the fee from $40. The state requires a minimum fee of $15 and a max fee of $50. With this change, the sheriff's revenue was reduced, but the county clerk's office budget allocation was increased to pay for processing an expected increase in requests. What change, if any, in the fee would you support? Why? Why not?
I would just support increasing it to $40 where it was. I'm not quite sure why it was lowered. I don't think that's a deal breaker for anybody getting a concealed carry permit. That said, I believe that we have a gun violence problem in America, and I believe that we need further reforms in terms of background checks. And I will just put that in because I think it's something that as a county we need to address, as a nation we need to address. I'm horrified by the gun violence that exists in the United States today, and I gladly say I think something needs to be done. If raising it to 40 dissuade somebody from getting a concealed carry, that's fine, but it's really, I think, a much larger issue that has nothing to do with fees. You know, if it's a revenue source, that's fine, but it's really, I think we have to address the gun violence issue in our society today.
Mr. Gray.
If I remember correctly, the concealed carry permit is valid for 5 years, right?
I do not have the answer to that question.
I think that's what it is.
I do not
It's
have
valid for 5 years. Okay. I think someone who wants to have a concealed carry isn't going to stop having a concealed carry because they raised the fee $25 over 5 years. It's not the answer to gun violence. I completely agree. We should have much deeper background checks in that sense. But raising the tax, it's not a major revenue gainer, number one. Number two, doesn't do anything to the gun violence problem. So
no change in the fee for you?
No, I wouldn't have any problem. It's raising it to $25. All right? Okay. Yeah, it's a $5. Yeah,
okay.
It's a no-brainer in my opinion.
Okay. Mr. Bay.
I would have no problem to take it all the way to $50 because that gives sheriff the money back that they require in the jails, because that money eventually comes out of the county's budget that we need to substitute for. So people who want a gun permit, whether it's 15 or 50, they'll pay for it. bigger problem here that we have talked about also is the background checks. Not only that, there's another issue is what kind of weapons should people be allowed to own? Does everybody need to own an AR-15? Or semi-automatic weapons, which they walk into their houses of worship and start killing people, or the schools and start killing people. We need to have a bigger discussion as a country, as a county, as a nation, as a family, that what is the right set of weapons that should be allowed. I'm a gun owner myself, but at the same time, you know, my kids don't have access to it. They're locked up, and nobody except me knows the code. They're for my safety and protection if I need them, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I have it when I need it. If somebody walks up, because of the environment that we live in today, somebody walks up to the, you know, during the, I don't know if anybody paid attention, during Ramadan, the mosque had a lot of security. We had police all over. We had almost armed guards every night because we had almost 1,000 people every night praying. We were almost afraid every night somebody's going to walk up and do something stupid. We need to be prepared for those things, but at the same time, we need to understand who is having that gun and why.
Mr. Scott?
I think the question was, should we raise the fee? I don't think it requires a long conversation about that. I'm in favor of raising the fee. I believe it should go up to $50 because if a concealed carry permit is $15 now and it's for 5 years, that in essence, that's $3 a year. So I'm in favor of raising it up to $50 and maybe even more. Thank you.
All right. We are about to get to our final question of the evening, and I want to congratulate you all. You're still in the game. You're all doing very well. We have no disqualifications yet. I'm just kidding. But I'm not kidding. I will say, I hope that you do go to PotomacLocal.com. I hope that you do get our morning weekday email newsletter that is a great look at events and news happening in Prince William County and supports our good work. As we work very hard this year to cover the local elections. It is our Super Bowl year. We get to take next year off at Potomac Local because we don't cover the president, and thank God for that. All right. Okay. Final question goes to Mr. Scott. Other jurisdictions are changing zoning regulations to decrease distance and size requirements for accessory dwelling units as part of the solution to the lack of affordable housing. Prince William has vulnerable residents without suitable affordable housing and are being priced out of it, including our homeless population. What provisions would you support to increase affordable housing in our community?
What provisions? Well, what I would do is I would even put a certain kind of fee on the residential development. I think that any residential development that occurs here in the county, I think the builder should have tack on a fee for that, to put it into a fund. Also believe we should be very robust in going after federal dollars that support affordable housing. Another thing is that I believe that what we should do is encourage or help seniors and others who have homes that could be retrofitted to have a accessory unit in their basement or even add on a room or something like that, because many people that are homeless don't require a lot of space. They just need a place maybe to sleep and maybe have their restroom and things like that. So I think that we should, but whatever we do, it should be in a very controlled way and a way in which it does not get out of control. And it should be done in a way in which it doesn't impact neighborhoods. We should make sure that it's spread around. Okay.
So affordable housing is definitely a passion for people who are coming on the board and candidates who are coming on the board, and we've been speaking about that. Part of the way I operate is I don't want to recreate the wheel. I believe in being a fast second. I don't want to spend time reinventing things. If there are things that other counties are doing that are successful, I would love to implement those. If they're successful and they're still attracting good development and things like that, I would want to investigate that. There's a great affordable housing unit that's going down in Dumfries that they've worked on. That's a great example of, they went out and they got federal dollars and they're building a big affordable complex. I don't think it's condos, I think it's apartments, which I was just reading about the other day. That's the kind of thing that we need more of in Prince William County, especially as we revitalize sections of the East End. We want to make sure we just don't displace people with new development. So I'm definitely would want to explore different ways that people are doing it around the area that would be successful for Prince William County. Affordable housing is going to be an issue over the next 25 years, especially with the pressure of more people moving into the Washington metro area. For example, I mean, Micron, let alone Amazon. And we've got to make sure that we have a breadth of housing for everyone, especially the people who work here.
When I moved into this county 21 years ago, the population of this county was 180,000 people. When I moved in, can you hear me now? When I moved into this county 21 years ago, the population was around 180,000 people. We are 460, projected for 500,000 by next year. That growth needs housing. We have become a very expensive county to live in. The apartment rent is somewhere $1,200. A student cannot afford that. If somebody who's making $10 an hour, $15 an hour cannot afford that, paying $1,600, $1,200, $1,400 in rent. We really need to look at seriously around our jurisdiction and other jurisdictions. What are the things that they have done efficiently and effectively that have enabled the student population, those paying the retail job people, to secure a nice place to live in. One of the things that we look at is sometimes we talk about there are too many people living in one house. That I've heard these questions over and over, that if you do high density, it will attract those low income people, and then it will just mess up their environment. We need to help again. Education is something that I emphasize over and over and over again. It's about lack of education, that there is nobody out there that's going to take anything from you. We need to look at educating people that there are people who do not make $1 million or $100,000 a year. There are people who make $20,000, $30,000 a year, and they need a place to live. And some of them are our kids who are getting starting their careers.
Thank you, Mr. Begg. We will now move into closing statements from each candidate.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr.
Uriah.
Begg. Sorry, I apologize.
Is this a mulligan? Excuse me. This actually is in my wheelhouse also. I've long served as the treasurer of what's called the Fellowship Square Foundation. We provide housing for very low income seniors. If anybody knows the Tackett's Mill area, the 5-story building at the Tackett's Mill, that's Lake Ridge Fellowship House, that's one of our 5 houses. We have one in Lake Ridge, 3 in Fairfax. Fairfax, low income housing. That surprises people. One in Largo Landing, $14 million entity. We're trying to refurbish one of the houses. Well, for the last 3 years, we've been trying to rebuild one of the houses up in Fairfax. We almost had it done, all the financing, all the permits, a ridiculous amount of permits in order to get it until a week ago, when they suddenly added $7.5 million to the cost of the project, simply because, oh, we forgot this one zoning ordinance. $7.5 million. Who pays for that? You pay for that, right? In your taxes. The residents don't, because their income is, their contribution is capped very low. My point is, it's not the answer to the question, but what we need to do is relax our zoning restrictions. We are our own worst enemy, whether it's low income for seniors, low income for affordable housing for seniors, affordable housing for low income people. Our zoning restrictions are ridiculously tight that we can't provide it. Let's look at that. That has to be a priority. It's a growing problem.
Thank you all for those answers. And as we move into closing statements, each candidate will have 2 minutes. We will go in reverse of opening statements. So Mr. Gray keeps the mic. 2 minutes on your closing statement.
Okay. Again, my thanks to all of you for being here, the congregation there, Shalom, for having us, and Ryan, a fine job, even though you've gone twice. Okay. You've seen 4 different visions of where we think Prince William County should be in the next several years. Several questions we agree on, several of them that we don't. We have an important decision to make in November. I I still believe that if we follow my 3 priorities, which is public safety should not be a matter of political ideology, right? It's a public safety matter. To keep our public safety, we have to reduce taxes, and we have to create jobs in Prince William County. I believe if we follow that formula, it's not going to change itself in a year, 2 years, not in the first 4 years, but we have to go towards that. We have to work towards that goal. We have to change the commercial tax base. We're an oil tanker in the ocean. It only takes 5 miles to change an oil tanker. We're not going to turn Prince William County around, but we have to at least start addressing these problems so that we can increase the quality of life in Prince William County. And again, those 3 priorities that I believe will help it, maintaining public safety, reducing taxation, and economic development, bringing jobs into Prince William County will help towards solving the problems, and I believe bring a better quality of life to you in Prince William County and a more prosperous future for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scoggins. 2 minutes, closing statement.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight on this jury night to hear us speak. What I would like to say is that I look upon myself as a hybrid candidate, and I also look upon myself as one who wants to hopefully help people to manage their expectations. Everything we've heard tonight and in some of the other debates is about what we're going to do. Tell you the truth, many of us are not going to do anything, to be quite frank about it, because we're going to let politics get in the way. And at this stage of the game, for me, I'm not about politics. I'm not an ideologue. But what I will say is that I'm going to be razor focused on doing whatever I can to try to increase our economic development. Everything we talked about, the bottom line is we need money. And Prince William County is woefully behind in the region when it comes to economic development. If we have to do some joint public-private partnerships to jumpstart the economy in this county, I think we should look at that. And like I said, I appreciate you all coming out tonight, and I do have a vision for the county, and I think that the vision I have, we can be a beacon, and we can be an example to other jurisdictions across the state as to how we manage ourselves. How much time do I have? I've got 30 seconds, okay. Say one other thing that I haven't heard anyone talk about tonight, and that is we have the capacity to do it, but no one has talked about looking after those who cannot look after themselves. I have a compassion for some of the people who are lost. Some of our youth are lost. And that's why a part of the economic development is to work out a way, and I would like to see us have a standalone trade school. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Scoggins.
Okay.
Ms. Wheeler, 2 minutes, closing statement.
Kind of ramble.
You know, I believe that Prince William County is at a crossroads. We're at sort of a major turning point of where we're going to be over the next 20 years. You know, we are the 2nd largest jurisdiction in the state, and yet it doesn't often feel that way. It feels like we're sort of, I'm not going to use redheaded stepchild because I got in trouble with that the other night because there were a lot of redheads in the room. But it does feel like we're not in our rightful place of Northern Virginia as we should be. We are a highly educated, affluent county that has a lot to offer, and yet we don't necessarily have that reputation. I want to change that reputation. I love Prince William County. You know, we have everything I talk about, from the mountains to the state forest to the battlefield to shopping to the riverfront. We have things that people would kill for, and our rural area and our tourism area. I mean, we have a lot of potential, and I really want to bring that to Prince William County. I've loved living here, and I often see there's so many good things that I just want to go out and talk about and attract other people here. And so what I would ask is that, you know, when you're going in and voting on November 5th, think about where you want the county to go. I just want to lead it in a nice, quiet, stable direction that makes it an attractive place to live. You know, no drama, no politics. I'm basically a policy wonk that knows a lot about the county, and I think that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we can do better. So I would ask that, you know, if you vote for me on November 5th, come find me. Let's work together to make Prince William County a better place to be. We all know it's a great place. We just need to tell other people that. And I'm excited for the future of Prince William County, and I hope everybody in this room is too. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Begg, 2 minutes, closing statement.
My vision for Prince William County is a one Prince William, where people can come together to live, work, retire, and enjoy. What does that mean? We have a lot of opportunities as a diverse community to kind of leverage. We have a great community. We have a great landscape. Being involved in the Chamber of Commerce for the last 8 years, one of the things that I've been pushing in the Chamber is that we are seen still outside of Prince William County as a cow country. As you go, you talk to anybody outside of Prince William County that I live in Manassas, you get that look back at you. Manassas, and we're becoming a technology hub. I'm pushing for a lot of things within the Chamber. I'm pushing for the small business advocacy in the Chamber because small businesses in our county do not get the upper hand when trying to compete for the local procurement dollars. Even in Maryland, a small business gets 10 to 15 point advantage when they're competing for local dollars. I want to become the advocate of small business because as a small business, I have seen firsthand the pain that small business faces in this county. I have been an advocate of it. I want to make sure that we, as a professional, when I go out to looking at the businesses, I'm a risk management guy. I'm a cybersecurity person. I deal with a lot of laws and governance and risk management compliance. I look at company, why do you try to go? And why are you today? Creating the delta between point A to point B, that's what I do on a daily basis. That's what I want to look at the county. That where are we today? What is our projected future look like? And that's not what I'm going to decide. That's groups in the county, not a consultant that's going to come from outside and is going to tell us how the county should look. We have enough people in the county who have a vested interest in the county who can come to the table and tell what this county should look like 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, or 50 years from now. We can put that in writing, follow that plan, and ink it down, make sure that we follow it line by line and execute upon it as the servants of the public, not the rulers.
Absentee voting is underway on the weekend. The election is Tuesday, November 5th. Go out and vote, vote, vote. Only vote once, but vote, vote, vote. A round of applause for all of our candidates. Thank you and good night.